Yeah, and one of the lessons I learned is that the readers are a lot smarter than we give them credit for. Generally speaking, there's some dumbasses out there, obviously, but you know, trying to over explaining, then you start to they kind of tune out. They're like, hey, if you're gonna fill in all the blanks for me, then why am I reading this? I want to. I think I had a class with this really famous Southern writer, Jill McCorkle, who's phenomenal lady. And one of the things that she said that I always try to keep in mind, she was like, and this was, she was talking about fiction, but it applies, um, that when you're going to have like a big reveal, if you can have the audience realize it like a paragraph before you say it, or you have your reader, say, "Oh shit, I know what's going to happen," and then it happens. That's the craft, or that's the mark of an incredibly craftful writer. You know,
Yeah. I mean, my number one rule in storytelling across the board, whether it's TV commercials or fiction or any other writing that I'm doing, is trust your audience.
Hmm.
Trust them. If you don't trust them, then you've got something going on in the back of your mind that's going to stop you from telling the story that you need to tell. And like I said, it's back to that dance, right? Like you have to trust them. They're your partner in this endeavor. They're a silent partner, right? They're a nameless, faceless partner, and it makes it a little bit more challenging. But once you do trust them, then like you said that she pointed out, they'll figure it out with just enough extra time that it'll make it that much more
Hmm.
valuable to them, and they'll feel like they're doing their part in the story too.
Yeah, exactly. So, and it's a little bit harder, I think, with nonfiction to do that, maybe, but it's I think really the same concept. And one of the things that I've discovered when I went to get the MFA, I initially enrolled because I knew that there was a long wait period for the DoD to review
Yeah.
manuscripts. So I didn't want to write nonfiction. So I went to write novels. And, I spent a lot of time in fiction classes. And one of the things that I learned that's been incredibly valuable is really just the pacing, the arc of a story. And that, once you realize that it applies equally to nonfiction, right? It really comes to how you tell the story, right? All stories kind of have the ups and downs, and it's you can tell a true story with a lot of the same tools that you would use in a fiction story, and that's absolutely one of the most valuable lessons that I learned, throughout all of the fiction uh, courses that I took.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a great point. I mean, and especially in the military memoir space, I think there's extra room for that kind of approach, because your non-military audience, or even somebody from another branch like myself, like you gave me just enough context. I didn't need any more context. If I want any more of that history, or if I want any more of that geography or any of that specifics, like I can go kind of do that research on my own.
Mm.
But you give me just enough, and then it allowed me to follow the story in a way that made it that much more impactful. And I think, like, Jack Carr, Don Bentley, these guys, Brad Thor, these guys that write these, kind of thriller type stories that were not necessarily going to, like, I mean, my memoir is like, I was a flight line guy. I loaded bombs. So I wasn't actually on target. I wasn't actually kicking doors. I wasn't actually doing anything remotely close to what's in those thrillers. But every time I read them, I take notes for the manuscript that I'm writing that's memoir,
Mm.
because there are storytelling techniques. There are pacing techniques, all these different things, because your non-military audience and your other branches, they want the story. They want
Mm.
what you're telling. And so if you give them too much, they're not going to go along for the ride. If you give them just enough and you bring in some of those fiction elements to the storytelling, it just makes it that much more gripping.
Yeah, I just finished. I'll forget. Okay, yeah, it's right behind me. Just finished a great book called Storyworthy,
Mm.
um, and what's the guy? Matthew Dix. He's like a multi, you know, time award winning storyteller, oral storyteller,
Yeah.
and I learned so much from reading that book. And he's really talking about telling stories orally, but I mean, all of the same things apply. And I was able to, see a lot of like, oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying because I've done that. But I think there's so much that we can take from other types of storytelling, whether it's fiction or oral storytelling or film, screenplays, all of those. There's once one not it's not too terribly rare that I'll be watching a movie and just be like, ooh, I think I see what you did there. I'm like, that's awesome. There's I can translate that into writing.
Yeah,
You know.
that's exactly right.